Good afternoon, everybody. And let's get right to the most important hot topic. Luke, humble pie time. Bow down to Bobby Reid. Please, can I see you bow? Please, can I see you?
Nice tap in, Len.
And everyone get in chat what you want Luke to do. But everyone, what a great game of football that was. It has finished. Leicester City 2, Brighton and Hove Albion 2. 2-0 down after 86 minutes. Leicester pull it back. And Tyler, you are the star of the show. Well down to Bobby Reid. Luke, well, do you know what? You can guess who is going to be taking the Bobby Reid piece a little bit later on to talk about what it's going to do. And yes, Locks has told everyone to tell everyone to bow down to Bobby Reid. And you know what? I've just got to say, I'm not that surprised because I think with a proper manager, unsurprisingly, a player that scored 5 goals in the Premier League last season doesn't look too bad. So, guys, where do we start with this one? Great game. Do you know what? I really enjoyed it, even though at times it was a little bit of a slow-paced one. I think it was quite a big tactical battle. Here's the stats in the end, which are going to feel a bit bizarre because, you know, if I'd have taken the stats at 86 minutes, it would have probably looked very different. But here they've ended. And, you know, the funny thing is that we've made comebacks earlier in the season, but it's been against 10 men. And this was against 11 men. And I'd actually say that at the end of the game, Brighton had their strongest team out there, right? They had Yakuba Minter, who showed why he's worth 35 million. What a great goal from him. Matt O'Reilly's the top player. We were after him in the summer. Danny Welbeck's been absolutely crushing it so far. And you know what, Manny, I think you're quite right. So much more intent under Cooper. Spirit and thrust is back. Ipswich choked up. We're going to talk about that in just a second. So yeah, if you look at the stats here, I mean, here's what's really interesting is possession. We actually had more possession than Brighton. That really surprised me. 3 big chances in the end. Actually, Brighton somehow 0 big chances, which I think shows you the quality of their goals. I mean, they're a really good team, you've got to say. Yeah, I think the possession is actually, I didn't even have time to update the score. It was 2-2 ended. We'll come to the scores in a moment. So let's sort of get straight, you know, actually, I'll come to that in a moment. Let's just go for the results, right? So here are the other things. Actually, it hadn't finished, but in the end, Ipswich have lost to Brighton. So you can see that we remain actually still 4 points clear. If we can update the tables, guys, maybe you can let me know. So let's take it right from the off then, right? Lots to talk about. The big starting line point is that Jordan Ayew came in for Facundo Buonanotte, and I think it's fair to say that's probably the biggest mistake that Ruud got wrong. So I tell you what, why don't you take this away, Luke? Because we're going to end with you, obviously, with the big finale on Bobby Reid. But before we get to him, why don't you tell me about what you were calling up before? The initial starting lineup, what worked and what didn't work, and what should have been changed and why.
You could make an argument that nearly everything worked. I think that if we're just concentrating on Jordan Ayew right now, his hold-up play was not there. He had a few moments where he had a give and go, but he just wasn't able to, you know, receive the ball, give it, and then be able to get back into space to be able to receive the ball. The pace was not there. Fouling people outside and giving away 2 free kicks. He was poor even on the ball a few times. I just don't think it was the correct decision. And again, it was proven right not to be that guy, but like Mavididi, just so much more threatening when he came on. I just don't understand why he's not starting, particularly now that Ruud's now in charge as a new manager. But look, I doubt he'd be there again. I'm starting again. Mavididi just proved why. You're going to have Buonanotte coming back. So I think there's not much to worry about for now. But yeah, I think we did a lot right. I think that we were still compact at the back that first half. I know that we conceded a goal, but it was a worldie. I think that the double pivot position before Ndidi was injured made a lot of brilliant recoveries. Samari had a much better second half. We'll talk about him later. Makatia done a lot right, made a lot of the right runs, but the end product was not there. He was panicking when he was getting contested for the ball, so I don't think he'll get another start, unfortunately.
Yeah, Neil, what did you make of it?
The starting lineup, I mean, I understood keeping the same team as we started. Obviously, with Buonanotte being out because obviously it is against his former club. Jordan coming in, I thought, do you know what? That makes sense because you give Christensen that that support. But again, it was a very Cooperish signing. And if you put Ruud in, I don't think he would have made the signing of that of Ayew, and that kind of showed. However, still happy with the majority of players, and the formation, I was happy with it. The implementation didn't come off quite right, but when we mentioned this later on, when he made the tactical shift to take off Ayew, take off McAteer, and we'll mention Daka in a second, it did make a drastic difference to the team.
Absolutely. Joe Smith, this is a really good comment. I saw you put this in the match day one as well. We didn't bring it up, but I agreed with you at the time. So you said, with our defensive setup, we have to bypass the midfield in possession and go for more direct play. And I sort of agree. I do think we actually were not bad in midfield today and playing it through the lines. But I know what you're saying, which is that when we're going to create a threat, unsurprisingly, it's by sort of unleashing these direct players. And I think that's one of the reasons why we actually got the goals and got back into the game. And that's where Mabadidi helps. So I think we can all say that, like, you know, again, we've got nothing against IU, although I think, you know, you've both pointed this out, that IU and Skipper Cooper signings, Bobby Reed seems like a club signing. Well, that's an interesting one. Yeah, maybe they took him for all Brighton just as the replacement. But what I was going to say is that, like, for sure, it's like, you know, the mistake, I think we'll get to Rude's performance in a moment, but I think he got the team selection wrong with Jordan Ayew. That's just a fact, because Ayew can have good games, but today it wasn't just he was poor offensively, which I think is going to be the big thing that everyone says, but I actually think even defensively he was really bad as well. He was giving the ball away a lot. He caused free kicks. He couldn't hold it up as well as he used to either. So it was just an off day for him. I think overall he's still been a good signing, though. Thanks to Neil for reading my halftime comment. This game is calling up for Bobby Reed to pop up in the strange Aussie rules, mate. Joking. I feel a bit sorry for Lucas. Going to get absolute belters for today. He's happy, really. Go on, Neil. Go.
No, I don't even realize. Again, shout out Brookline, but I didn't even realize that I read his comment. But I've been talking about Bobby D called every for a while, which we'll talk about a little later. But yeah, no,
I'm sure there's going to be a lot of revisionist history that people said he was the next Messi and they weren't listened to. From Locks, I truly believe we lose that 3-0 or 4-0 under Cooper Pooper. I absolutely agree with you, Locks. And that, I think, is the biggest thing, is to see, even after one went in, that Rude was like giving it all and he was like really connecting with the crowd. And I just want to say that Jamie Vardy, since Rude Van Nistelrooy came in, 2 games, 2 goals, 10 more before he breaks the record. Just
and an assist
out there. Just want to talk about Brighton. So the reason I want to speak about them is, firstly, they played Evan Ferguson up front. And I've got to say that something that I think we did really well today is that, do you remember Evan Ferguson even touching the ball?
No. Marks
He's a good player, but we limited him. Matoma, I called him out as my man to watch before the game. He did have one good chance, but other than that, he didn't score. João Pedro, I think, was good. I think indeed he fouled him about 3 or 4 times and he never got booked for it, and he should have. Jorginho Rutter, I don't remember him doing too much either. So I think overall, we kept them pretty quiet. I think from them, the players that I were impressed by, obviously Lamptey, what a world-class goal. Estupiñán, I thought, was good the whole way throughout the game. And Van Heck actually made a lot of really good defensive saves. But I think someone else put it, and please forgive me for getting it wrong, who it is in the chat. Maybe I can find it here. Here we go, from Easy Gaming. I really agree with this. So compare this to the West Ham game that was midweek. 14 less shots conceded than the last game shows progress, and against a way better team. And look at that. The stats show that there wasn't one big chance that Brighton scored. So in other words, they scored the worldie. And that Minter goal, I'll be interested what you guys think, if you think that we could have done better against it. But I actually think that was actually good play. And I don't know if any of you saw this, but we were watching the game with this female commentator that made me absolutely want to pull my eyes out. Yep. She was just the amount of, like, pardon my language, but sucking off of Brighton was absolutely ridiculous. When Brighton, in my opinion, were not even that good. And I was even saying to the boys, I so hope we win or get something from this game to shut her up. And luckily we did. So, was it Karen Kearney? You know,
she's
normally
a stupid fucking bitch.
As a player. Yeah, and normally she's a good commentator, but she was just absolutely awful. I don't know what she she was going, oh, Leicester had 3 or 4 chances to clear the Minter goal. No, we didn't. He's like, oh my God. Anyway.
Or there was a time where Samare, who went, somebody, I think it was O'Reilly went on Samare, and she goes, yeah, it was a 50-50 challenge. And she's blatantly studs up, both feet went into him. I'm like, come on.
Yeah, that was the Weaver one, and he actually tackled both of Samare's feet. Anyway, we'll come to that in a moment. And it's just funny. She's always so wrong about anything outside of what she's already confirmed in her mind. I agree. I mean, come on. Like, I remember once we were saying, oh, like, that's no way is that a foul on João Pedro. Then they showed it again in slow mo. Like, actually, indeed, he totally got away with one there, right? But we could admit what we're seeing. So before we go through the players, guys, I just wanted to show you this. So here was the momentum bar. And I think this is something that we're noticing a lot under Rude. And I think it's not a bad thing, right? So we noticed that in general, like, we're basically giving the other team, I think, shots and opportunities because we're playing this compact 4-4-2. But something that's consistent throughout the game is you can see that we always carry a threat ourselves through the game. I also think what's good is that after we went behind, look, we wanted to get back into it. We started the second half on top. And I think in the second half, we were the better team. I wouldn't say they scored against the run of play. We'll get to that goal. It was a top goal. But look at that. In the end, we never gave up and we got something out of the game. I'll be curious. Actually, let's just bring this up from Locks. Jamie Vardy this season, 14 games, 6 goals, 3 assists. He's like a fine wine, isn't he? He just gets better with age. Unbelievable from JV, who we'll get to in a moment. So, okay, I'm going to pass over to you, Neil. So we're going to go now through all the players. But before we go through the players, I'm actually going to start with the manager. So what did you make of him, good and bad, his overall performance? And why I've brought him up is because I realized under Steve Cooper that it was always 1 out of 10 every game, that he never understood how to change the game. So speak to me about what you think. We've already mentioned the lineup, so maybe let's leave that out. With the overall game state, what did you make of his performance today, Ruud van Nistelrooy?
Honestly, considering he's been in, 8 days? 9 out of 10. I think what he's tried to do, even from minute 1, it wasn't the same performance as it was against West Ham. There was more of an identity, more of the players playing those nice little triangles. There was more possession and keeping the ball in good areas. At times, we were pushing Brighton right back into their position where we had Connor Cody and Yannick Vestergaard were basically playing ahead of the kickoff point. And we're playing some great football. I think with time, this team's only going to get better. And I don't want to hear people say, oh, this is a new manager bounce. This is what happens. I'm so happy with the way he performed. His defensive shape is great. His attacking shape, at times, you could see where we were lacking a little bit. But again, we'll come into this. The substitutes changed it. He then took off the 2 wingers, put in the 2 other wingers, and it made a massive difference to the team at 60 minutes, which I think was the right change to make. So I'm really happy with him. And again, considering he's been in 8 days, I'd give him a 9 out of 10. I can't give a 10 out of 10 because we didn't win.
How about you, Luke? What would you think about Ruud?
This is the best way I can describe Ruud van Nistelrooy since he came in for Leicester. Leicester City is a ripped shirt with a bunch of holes in it, and he is the sewing stitches bringing that shirt back to life and bringing it together. I genuinely believe that the cohesiveness between each position is night and day compared to Cooper. Again, stupid fucking appointment from the board. Stupid ass orc. I cannot believe the difference he's made in an absolute week. Fuck off. Now, moving on. Ruud van Nistelrooy has made, I agree with everything that Neil said. Preemptive with the subs. Every sub was made early and preemptively. Made a difference to the game in a positive light for every single one. He's adaptable. The defense still a lot more compact than it was last under Cooper. So, mate, I'm really all aboard this Dutch hype train right now. My turtleneck needs to get here quick because I'm anxiously awaiting it.
Absolutely. So, you know what? I think I'll give him a lot of props. I think he was good. I don't think I'll go as far as a 9. I think I'd probably give him 7 or 8 just because I think there's 2 things that stand out. I think he got the team selection wrong. And I think Joe's brought this up again above my pay grade, but I think the halftime switch would have been better if it had been done sooner. But I think, to be fair, what you're saying here, Joe, and I agree with you, Neil, is we did come out fighting. And it is noticeable that we've got much more aggression, I think, in general, the way that we play. There's been progress since the last time we played as well. Loads of comments coming. I'm loving it, guys. Keep coming in. I'm not going to try and miss anyone. From Costa. I'm sure as more as this game meets the eye and you always give us the deep analysis, we'll look at that. Yes, there's a lot to look there. And Brooke Ryan, always one of my favorite commenters. Not only is a team completely different, but Ruud has done a great job of testing different player combinations. He's like an AI and we'll get smarter and stronger with each game. Ragsy, Ruud. Yeah, I think Brookline, that's a great comment. We're going to talk about, I think, especially the centre-back pairing in a moment. I think Luke is going to take that. But let's start going through the players. So I'll take Mads because I think we won't say so much about him. But I think overall, again, a decent game. I don't think he was really forced into anything outrageous in this game. He made the good saves where he did. I think that was a really good save on Estupiñán, who had that really nice sort of left-footed shot. But yeah, I mean, look, the stats say that there were 0 big chances. So basically, the 2 goals that Brighton have scored have been really good, high-quality goals. Fair play to them for their players for doing it. Don't think he could have done anything about Lamptey. Don't think he could have done anything about Minter. Overall, his distribution was pretty good. I don't seem to remember him giving the ball away stupidly in any way areas. I do think maybe compared to last season, he could be a little bit better with his forward distribution. I don't think it's terrible, but I'm not seeing... Like he set up some attacks, I think, in last season quite a few times, but I think in general, not bad. So I think Mads was good. So I'm going to give this over to you, Neil. Talk about someone who I think is very quickly growing on the fan base, especially me. I've completely changed my mind. So can you talk to me about Victor Christensen?
Well, it shows you that how much a player is dependent on the manager as well. Under Steve Cooper, he didn't do anything, and that's me being quite kind. He wouldn't really attack, wouldn't really defend, couldn't really take his man on, and was caught in two minds at the same time.
Yeah.
In the last couple of games, I think he's been, I'd argue, he's been one of my favorite players to watch. Why? Because again, he does the defensive side of work. He'll play some lovely, nice triangles, but at the same time, he's getting these lovely pockets of space up the left-hand side. And not before, he's just whack crossing and it weren't going anywhere. Now, every time he goes forward and he gets the ball, I'm looking like that. And somebody like Jamie Vardy going, if he gets head on that, that's going in the back of the net. Because the quality of the crosses that he's been doing has been brilliant. But it's not just the crosses and the fact that he plays up with the left wing and back up with the left wing and then playing the balls across. His defensive work, his ability to mark players out of the game. Because I think he was going to, not Matoma. Who was he against today? Rutter. I think he played Rutter really well. You mentioned Ferguson. I think he played Rutter really well. And part of that is the way that Rude's playing him. So, yeah, I'm really, really happy with him. And I think his development under this manager in this system, we were all talking about, do we need left-sided centre-back coming into... Christensen's kind of proving that. I'm super happy with Christensen and how he's developing because he's turning into... The ceiling is so high with him now. And that's only been a couple of games. I can't wait to see what he actually does.
What did you make of the Minter goal? Could he have done better for that one?
I mean, mate, I think... Sorry.
Go on, mate.
No, I was just going to say, I think that'd be maybe a little bit harsh. Sorry.
Okay, I think maybe he could have, but looking back, I think it was good play. The way that Minter shifted his feet. But I think what we might be asking is the initial ball over across him. But he's a fast guy. You got to understand, Yakuba Minter was like one of the best players in Dutch football last season. He was on loan. He's really highly thought of. But I think that's fair to say that he maybe could have done some more. Okay, I'm actually going to move on to two. So I'm going to give you a double threat here. So Luke, why don't you talk to me about the centre-back pairing? Because I said this before against West Ham. If you'd have told me we're going to have a back four and the two in the back four are going to be Conor Coady and Yannick Vestergaard, I'm telling you that's a team that's going to finish bottom of the table. But somehow, Rude the dude, talk to me about both of these guys.
Okay, so this is what's interesting, right? So Conor Coady had a very good game, in my opinion. I wouldn't say like outstanding, but like let's say this: like there was one moment where he picked the right time to make a Wout phase-esque run forward, and he played an absolutely beautiful pass on for Jamie Vardy. It was just a shame when Jamie Vardy got the ball at pitch, no one was there. Conor Coady as well. So if you look, when we built up and we did interchange between a back four or a back three, it was interesting because I don't know if you noticed, and I haven't even talked about this during the game review, but I saw Conor Coady and Yannick Vestergaard alternate positions a few times as the middle builder. And what's important is that they were vocally able to cover for one another. So that's something to mention that we haven't spoke about yet. So Conor Coady and Yannick Vestergaard have surprised me with their partnership because we did not see it last season at all in the championship. So for now, I would not change it, to be honest with you. I think Conor Coady made the right challenges when he needed to and cleared the ball when he needed to. He was vocal. You could hear him even from the heads. I could even hear him. And also Yannick Vestergaard on the ball, decent as always. He didn't have a lot of it that he normally does, but he did everything he needed to. He made an absolute crunching clearance at one point in the game. Double dives, double leg was brilliant. But look, I thought no complaints whatsoever, to be honest, from the centre-backs today. What did you guys think?
Yeah, I think so. I will say one thing that I wanted to bring up. So Costa's brought this up. So he said they are both very slow, but to be honest, we haven't really noticed because Rude is awesome. And I do agree with you, but I think what Peter's bringing up here is he says Coady was overcommitted in their second goal. Perhaps, but I think what you notice is that after they conceded the goal against Minter, what was the change that he made, Rude? He brought on Wout Fass again, didn't he? And who did he bring on Wout Fass for? He brought him on for Vestergaard. And that's because Vestergaard is good. But as per Costa's point, I think it's because when the game gets stretched and you need that bit of pace at the back, that's sometimes when they look poor. But I think overall, you've got to say that I agree. Their experience counts. Great point there, Luke, about them switching the build-up play. You're bang on with that. And they both did a good job of that, both playing good balls. So, yeah, look, to be honest with you, that is something you've got to say about the manager, that I think a good manager makes the best of the tools at his disposal and makes them work well. When we won the title, the thing that was amazing about Ranieri, everyone will of course speak about Vardy, Kante, Mahrez, yes, but he was getting the best out of Mark Albrighton, Danny Simpson, Shinji Okazaki, Danny Drinkwater, these players that were nowhere near as good, right? But they were giving 7 to 7.5 out of 10 every single game, which meant that the overall base was really, really good. So yeah, to put this from David, play them properly and they're both decent defenders. Absolutely. And Manny is all aboard the Dutch train with me. Good, good. Okay, let's talk about James Justin. I'm going to hand this one to you, Neil. What can you tell me about James Justin?
I think he was. Well, I didn't really notice him too much. To be honest with you, in the game, I didn't really notice him too much in a good and a bad way. Bearing in mind he was against Matoma. Matoma was again a quality player, as we all know. And again, Matoma kept quiet, but he didn't do anything that was extremely brilliant or when we were attacking going forward, etc. So I'll give him a solid 7 out of 10.
Yeah, anything to add to that, Luke?
No, mate. Neil's nailed it.
Yeah, I think he was getting exposed a little bit at times, but you've got to remember that the way that many teams attack is they go for 5v4. So having a spare man on the other side of the box, I think, if our team was stepped up a bit, we'd probably have a higher quality centre back who could maybe cover for him. Or maybe you could say it's not the centre back, we'd have a higher quality right back, so he wouldn't need to cover for him. So that's fair enough. So yeah, I think this is what Sean's good things here. Solid today, good defensively, offered something going forward without getting too exposed. And yeah, this is the big thing. No goals from that side again. Exactly. It's fixed. Ruud has fixed the problem. And why that's important is you can see his confidence slowly creeping back in. I agree that I think compared to the previous game, he already looked like a bit more encouraged in terms of playing out from the back. Okay. I'll give one each of these to you. So I'll tell you what, I know you're a big fan of him. So you talk to me about Wilfred and Didi, Neil.
It's not Wilfred and Didi. It's Wilfred and Dino. Because sometimes the football he's playing, he's like, it's brilliant. His ability in the air, and it was notable that we lost that when he went off the pitch. His aerial ability, he's just the way to just firefight. And it was going back to that Wilfred and Didi that we knew when we first signed. Here we go, firefighting, no problem. I'll sweep up the mess. Oh, I absolutely love him. I think he was brilliant. He was, for me, the best player on the pitch until, hamstring's a big one. But Ndidi that's such a shame. But I think he was the best player on the pitch until he was subbed off, genuinely, because I was really impressed with the performance. And again, his synergy with Samore, his partnership, if they keep playing like that, it's going to be hard for Skip and Winks to get back into the team.
Yeah, I would say as well that keep an eye out for something for Ndidi, but I think his ability to play out of traffic has improved quite a lot in the last couple of games. I think obviously that helped with Enzo coaching him last time round, but there were a few examples where Brighton were putting him under pressure and he turned out pretty well to make something happen. But if we're talking about someone who can receive the ball, turn out of pressure, move the ball forward, well, I'm going to give you a good one, Luke, because this guy, I mean, here's the thing. You can also talk to him about Skip as well, because he came on. So I'll throw that in for you as well. So you get, I don't think he was bad at all, by the way. But Bouba Samare, what the hell has happened here, guys? This is incredible, right? I actually think he was a little bit poor in the first half, but that second half, talk to me about it, Luke.
Brother, there was one moment, I agree with you, by the way, the first half, but that second half, there was one moment we had like 3 touches in like 30 seconds. Like every play was dictated around him. He was absolutely everywhere, making some proper physical challenges. His ball distribution was on point that second half. He has been as you'd like to say it, a revelation this season. We've finally seen while we brought him into the first place when we're still contending for Europe, mate. He is like nailed on his position, in my opinion. It's going to be quite tricky if all of our double pivot options were available in the next couple of months and who he goes for. But, mate, I'm really, really happy that we're starting to see him have consistent form. That's 3 games now where he's played decent. If he was to move on, we'd get a value for him. If we keep him, we've now got a player that we bought in that's now been utilised. So, mate, I'm completely stoked of how he's been performing, and I'm happy for the lad as well. I think he's really starting to adapt to the Premier League. He's got the pace, he's got the ball distribution, and he's also got the physicality, mate. So he tracked back as well. I've been critical of him in the past, saying that he's good going forward but not good going back. He was good everywhere today, mate. He was everywhere. So he proper got some kilometres in them boots today. If we want to move on to Skip now, if he's unavailable and indeed is unavailable, we're going to really hope that Winks is back available, because I still am on board with the Skip and Winks partnership. You maybe could say you lose a bit of physicality, but people forget Skip has played a centre back and he can invert. And he has done it for Tottenham before, so it's not the end of the world. In my opinion, I definitely think we're going to miss Samari, and I definitely think Ndidi as well. But there's still something to be optimistic about with Skip being integrated, because in our build-up play, how much did everyone in the comments notice, and how much did you two guys notice that we are moving together as a unit again? That's why it reinforces my theory that we're cohesive again. The build-up is working. We can string passes together. The first 20 minutes was excellent. So, hey, I'm all for this redemption arc, Tyler.
It's pretty funny, actually. Yeah, can we handle all these redemption arcs? All these players becoming good. I'm curious what everyone else thought. I thought with Skip as well, he made quite a few challenges, which I think was really good. And there was also another really good thing where he played the ball to Bobby Reed and he made the forward run, and Reed didn't make the best return pass, but he could have got in. And I was impressed by his ability to get up. But I mean, in general, what we're basically hearing here is that everyone in chat, there is a lot of love for the boobs, and a lot of people are preferring their booba to the Asa. So they will have to see. I'm not surprised, but Samare, yeah, for me, I think the thing that's most impressive, I think, is he was being used as the builder, so the Harry Winks replacement in this thing. So he was the one that Mads Hermansen was playing the ball to. They were trying to provoke the press from Brighton. He'd play the ball back, but the amount of times he got it, and he'd have two men around him, and he'd do this really nice turn around both of them, and then open it up and go the other way. That is absolutely at the top level right now. That's why players like Rodri are so highly rated. Caicedo as well, because it means that you can start your attacks. And if you don't have a player like that, it means you can't play that style. So, wow, he's been really impressive, Samari. And yeah, I think who man of the match was, there's quite a few candidates. He was certainly one of them.
I've got just something else to mention as well.
Yeah.
His defensive ability was a lot better than it was against his covering in behind. His, sometimes where you see him and he's trundling back. This time he's sprinting back to get the last man. And I was really impressed with, again, Booba, just to kind of, as the people have mentioned, because how we managed to work around. And it seems like we've got the best position of him. In the first half, he did lose the ball in a good position. He did lose the ball in
he played a bad back pass, didn't he? That almost got Brighton in.
But Rude got into him and was, look, this is not happening. Second half, they came out firing. And I think Samara was a big reason why that happened.
Absolutely. All right, so we'll go for maybe two of the negatives in our performance today. So I think we've already spoken a bit about Ayew, so I'll move it on to Casey McAteer. What did we make of Casey McAteer's performance? And I will start with you, Luke.
Again, it's a weird one, because he was like, there was one moment as well where he failed to deliver the ball sooner to Skip. And he was getting on the end of so many balls, making, intelligent runs. He's got pace. He's like there to track back if need be to help support Justin. But as I mentioned at halftime, mate, there was no end product whatsoever. I didn't see him string a decent pass. There was so many times he got in the box. He panicked, tried to cut inside, turned the ball over. He lost it. None of his crosses were on. They were all intercepted and blocked. I wanted him to have his chance. I really did. And I like Casey, mate. I do. But I just think that he's back to the bench for him now, unfortunately. And for the Caribou Cup or the FA is now where he's going to be most likely featuring. I think a loan move away will do him good. But if he's Premier League quality Everton, I don't think so, to be honest with you, mate.
Yeah. And what do you think, Neil?
He's got the pace. He's got the power. It's a tricky one because people say he's not good enough and etc. But I'm not convinced at the moment that I think Rude could work his magic on him. At the moment, though, I don't think he deserves his place. The problem is at times when he's getting the ball, he's making the great pace, great power to get the ball. Just sometimes his final pass is off. He doesn't quite know what the next step is or to finish like he did in the Championship. So I'm still willing to give him time because everybody else is stepping up. But I think he should be coming on as a sub, not as a starter.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been of the same opinion, which I think he just needs a season in the Championship. I think when I look at him, he makes intelligent runs. He works really hard. His off the ball work is fantastic. and he gets himself into good positions and times his run right. But when he gets there, he does feel like he's a bit nervous, or he doesn't have like the best technique. I think if he is going to improve, the way he'd improve is just playing that for a long time, week in, week out. I think ideally he'd play for sort of like a team that's pushing for promotion in the championship, that plays fairly good football and has that kind of style. There are certain teams like that. I think if he played for a team like that, we'd see if he's really made of it. I think, yeah, time will tell if he's a player that's good enough to be Premier League, or he's just like good for the top end of the championship. But there's definitely not like an impossibility there. Brookline, I believe that Rude will now shift his attention to combinations in the final third. He will drill some patterns of play, and that will open up Casey's impact, and he'll start again next game, is what Brookline says. And then the counterpart, I love the sort of like the yin and yang that is blue tinted glasses. We've got Robert Clark. McAteer was absolutely crap today. So there you go. You've got the two different variations of that. Okay, before we come on to some other ones, I'm going to tackle this one, and if you don't mind. So I'm going to talk about Bilal El Khanous. I think overall he was solid. I think, again, he had really put in a shift. He got about, made a lot of challenges. I think at times he had some really clever touches. But I think if I was being a bit critical of him compared to the game against West Ham, I think he was trying too hard at times. Like he was trying to go for like a bit of a Hollywood pass. Like I remember there was one time where he tried to go for a dinked cute pass over the top, where I think he could have just slotted it through instead. Yeah, a few people here saying Bilal wasn't great today, to be honest. I would agree, definitely not great, maybe even a bit below average, but I thought he was okay. I think his off the ball work was good. I think what he kind of struggled with, Bilal, is that he didn't have Buonanotte in the team as well. So I think basically, I don't think it was a surprise that generally in the game, we didn't really create much. In fact, when we did create much, it was right at the end where we actually then put on Mavididi and Bobby Reed. Then all of a sudden he looked better. But then, of course, he came off, and then on came Patson Daka, and then just really going for it, sort of, started quite hard, I think. But it's interesting. People saying Bilal has it all. Under Rude, he'll be a star before you know it. I could see that. And I think the funny one, I didn't see this. Someone said Bilal doesn't like the rain. Here we go. That's what we've learned, which is a bit of a struggle in English football, but hopefully he can improve on it. Guys, there's 190 people here. So please smash the like button if you haven't already subbed to the channel. Also sub to LCFC Down Under and Neil at Beyond the 90. Yeah, please. Everything does get that algorithm moving. It's a good day for Leicester. Anyone else want to speak about Bilal El Khanous? Neil, anything to say on the Moroccan sensation?
I think there was a lot of confidence he took. And I think when you can take that level of confidence, I think at times he was playing the pass that was too risky and losing it in positions. There was some really good passes to play, but the problem is he lost them more of the time. So, again, it's a learning curve. This guy's young, but I'm really excited to see what he does next, because the match against we saw El Khanous really arrive on the scene against West Ham. Now in this game, he kind of took a little bit of a backward step, but hopefully you can go, okay, kind of not hum myself and go, okay, it didn't really work out. What can I do more? Just go to Rude and go, what do I need to do to try and get the most out of it? Because I think he's a great player. And again, I think a little bit an element. I'm glad that he was taken off and Daka was put on, because that's something we'll probably get to later as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything you want to say, Luke?
Yeah, mate. I think that his deep line playmaking abilities when he's on, he was a bit poor in some areas today, is superb. I genuinely think that he's got a good football brain for his age. You can see he scans the pitch. He's looking for the correct pass. Yes, he did try a bit too flare and a bit too much, but the confidence is there, and that's what was important. He was absolutely ever. I think going forward, Khanous and Buonanotte and Mavididi as like that front attacking three, but before Vardy is proper threatening, and I think that Rude can take this team forward, and I'm really optimistic and excited moving forward.
Yeah, there's an interesting one from Joe. Bilal is more of a team player than Facundo. Could he be better technically? We were actually talking about that in the first half, where I think the difference between him and Buonanotte is that Buonanotte, when he receives the ball, he just runs straight forward. He's like very, wouldn't necessarily say selfish, though some people would say, but more he's a progressive carrier. Whereas Bilal likes to let the ball do the work and make the clever passes. I think sometimes he's too clever for his own good. And I think sometimes you could go for a simple pass, which would achieve more than the complex one. But I think overall, what I would say is his scanning of the game and his understanding is absolutely brilliant. Look, keep your comments coming in, guys. I've starred a lot of them, so we'll come back to them in the end. Okay. Who wants to talk about someone who I think, I'll be honest with you, I think he was man of the match. I'm just going to say it. So what are we talking about? The GOAT, Jamie Vardy, a goal, an assist. He leads the line again. I think there was so much more than that. I think he was getting stuck in and acting like the captain again, right? When we were down, he never gave up. As I said, legend, next player. We got to talk more about that for Vardy. Come on, Neil, talk to me. What did you make about Father Jamie?
Father
Yeah,
Jamie is very well. That's what Thingy said, hasn't it? Rude said, "Well, you got to break your own record now," and he's on 2 for 2 and an assist within that as well. I mean, Jamie Vardy, to some people on the outside, is just the ball off the. He's just a man that plays off the line and plays off the shoulder. But he's shown year in, year out that he's way, way, way more than that. His ability, again, unselfishly for the second goal, before he even gets to the first goal, like that could easily go, I'm Jamie Vardy, I've got every right to go and hit that. But he's got the awareness to pick up other people and see that he could have read to make a really good run into the box, just slide it over. And it was a brilliant pass. His ability to then get the ball, come out wide, also to tuck in as the false nine, which I don't think gets enough credit, how intelligent you need to be to play that false nine position and get people to run off you. Again, it was brilliant. And then the way he took the first goal was it wasn't a classic Jamie Vardy, but it's just one of his tools in his arsenal that he can choose to pick from. Sublime today. And credit to Rude for keeping him on, because let's not forget he was taken off for Patson Daka at 58 minutes, and I was going, should we get Daka on? I wasn't thinking of bringing El Khanous off, even though El Khanous in the second half wasn't as effective. So credit to Rude again for leaving him on for the period of time.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the other thing that doesn't get enough thing is off the ball work, but the fact that he played the full 90, and you could tell the reason why Rude wouldn't take him off, because he knew that if someone's going to make the difference, it's going to be him. And I think this sums it up. The commentator said that when you have Jamie Vardy in your team, you always have a chance. And I heard the Brighton fans were giving it to him large when they were 2-0 up. And I cannot tell you what a mistake. Have you surely not learned your lesson by now? Oh my goodness. But look, I tell you what, and if Lox is in the chat, something we absolutely have to do is we have to make a kind of montage of Luke being really critical and absolutely hating on this next man before we now come to this one. Because let's be honest with you, I've made you sit through 37 minutes for one reason and one reason alone. And it's for Luke from LCFC Down Under to talk to me about Bobby de Cordova Reid. Over to you.
Stitch up. I did that on purpose. I did a reverse jinx. You know what I mean? You guys can all thank me. I always sung his praises. I'm just
now
kidding.
Leave the stream. Now that's the best time to leave the stream, mate.
Honestly, I still stand by certain things. I'll say this though, to be fair. I'm gonna actually, no, I nearly contradicted the shit out of myself live. I was thinking before he scored that tap in. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. He's not shit. I'll say this before he scored that tap in. Okay. Very unselfish from Vardy. I always felt like he chased shadows, and you could argue that under a Cooper system, nearly everyone was, and there was no cohesiveness. But what I will say is that he was there for the tap in. He was there for the offside one last week. That's all that matters. Luke, shut up, you Australian idiot. He won us the game today. Well, got us the equaliser. I feel like we won. Bobby de Cordova Reid, right place, right time. Do I think he should start? No, I don't. I still stand by that. But hey, the man scored his goal today. I ate my humble pie. Bow down under. Thanks, Lox. Mate, I don't know what you want me to say here. Like I reverse jinxed him into a goal of existence. All praise be.
Fair play. Everyone said Luke is a good sport. Well, it's funny because you know what? When he first came on, he actually was pretty bad. Like it was noticeable when we brought on Mavididi and Bobby Reid that Mavididi was making things happen right away. Right, he had that really nice cross to Vardy. He was actually playing with Christensen. We'll come to Mavididi in a second. He was making things happen, including winning a ball back for that goal that Bobby Reid scores. But I think, look, the thing I'll say about Bobby Reid, I've said this before. If you actually watched him play last season for Fulham, honestly, this guy was a good player, an actual good player. Now, the age, of course. So we don't know if he's going to be a good player in 2 years' time. But what we saw today is the sort of thing that you would see when he was playing for Fulham. He always put in a massive shift. He had quality as well. He actually scored goals. He had a lot of assists. He was a good player. So he was poor to begin with, I think. But as the game went on, I think he started getting back into it. He started making the runs. And I think if he gets his confidence back, it's interesting that you knew, obviously, if Buonanotte is available or Fatau is available, they're going to be starting. But at the moment, Fatau is out for the season. Buonanotte, I think, will come in for the next game. But I think if instead of playing Casey McAteer, you should be starting Bobby Reed, in my opinion, because he's played in the Premier League way more often, right? Luke's doing this. I don't know if he thinks that's complete rubbish, but I think there is a player in there. What did you make of him, Neil?
I've said since the beginning that he's not a bad player as he currently is playing. I think it's been, and I've said even in my videos that I think he could play at the wing. He can but then also his cutting in ability to play that. And also, let's not forget, if it wasn't for a slightly offside run, he would have had another goal in the previous game as well. He's just good at finding those oppositions. Now, has he been brilliant? No, but as in, like, has he been brilliant for all the time? Again, as you mentioned, there were some times where he didn't quite get it right. However, I think some of the positions he was taking up, and for me, this is what Casey needs to look at and go, this is what you need to do. He's got the pace, he's got the power, but he's got the ability to get on the end and finish opportunities. And at the end of the day, a forward-thinking player wants those opportunities. So if I was Casey, I'd be taking him to one side and go, can you show me what you're doing? Because, again, that's it. Again, a lot of our players were way underperforming under Cooper. But again, it just shows you that credit to the manager for taking him off. Bearing in mind, he left Jamie Vardy on, which I think is like another sub in itself, keeping Jamie Vardy on, where he took him off in the last game, and then bringing on the substitute who scored the game when we were 2-0 down. I think that's, again, credit to them. I don't want to come on to Mavididi as of yet, but that's a credit to the manager, again, just for the way that he's turning this team into a team that cares. And the third goal against Mavididi, against West Ham, where Daka scored, and the team all came together. They were just, and same again for the 2-2 in this game. There was a real understanding of togetherness. And it's not just when they're playing games, it's when they're scoring, they all go and celebrate together. If you notice, Vardy was giving it some to the players, and then they all kind of went together, which was brilliant to see.
Yeah, look, I think David something else. Sorry, Dave something else, I think is your name. I'm probably butchering that. I've learned not to judge any of our players based on how they played under Cooper. I think that's the TLDR, right? It's got to be a clean slate for everyone. So if you look at it, he's played now probably not even one half of football under Rude, Bobby, De Cordova, Reed, if you combine it together, a goal and assist, and he almost scored a second goal. So I'm not saying that he's going to be the next, the second coming of Jesus or anything like that, but I think he should turn out to be a good and solid player. All right, who wants to take Mavididi? I'll let you have this one, Luke. No, go on, Neil. Neil had his hands up, so go.
I was pointing to get Luke if Luke wants to take it.
Go on, because we gave you Reed. We'll give you something good to talk about as well.
You've had it rough, mate. It's self-inflicted, but you've had it rough, so there you go.
Yeah, I do. If I'm going to slag people off and give it out, I've got to take it. So fair play to everyone in the comments. I am a bit of a bot. Mavididi, mate, absolutely brilliant. It's so much more threatening. He had few errant crosses, mate, but like down that left-hand side, just the absolute exactly title. He pressed. He's so much faster than IU. His link-up play is excellent. I mentioned during the game that people say, he hasn't been tracking back and he hasn't looked fit when he was our fittest player last season. Maybe this could be a bit of a conspiracy. He might have been nursing an injury. Who knows? Maybe that's why he hasn't been starting. Thank you, Costa. I appreciate that. Mavididi, though, mate, he has to be starting. He's so much more threatening on that left-hand side than IU, in my opinion. IU still has a job to finish and as a finisher. But look, mate, Steffi Mavididi, I thought he was excellent when he came on, and I'm looking forward to see him start, hopefully, next game against Newcastle.
How would you start with Newcastle, given that Buonanotte will be back? Would you start Bilal in the 10 and Buonanotte on the right? Or maybe even you could put Bilal on the right-hand side? We'll come to that Newcastle game in a moment, but I think that's definitely the thing to sort of talk about. Two more, we'll just quickly go through them. Patson Daka, I mean, he pressed. He maybe didn't score a goal or anything, but I think he did get involved. It was, I think, again, this is good from Rude. So we're 2-0 down, and we were talking about what he would do. And I think a lot of us were saying, oh, will he take Vardy off for Daka? And I just want to give myself a little shout out here, because I said to the boys, no, he'll definitely put Daka and Vardy on to go 2 up top, because you have to go for it. You might as well lose 3. If you want to get something out of the game, you're going to have to push 2. So that was pretty good. And then Wout Fass, he came on. I don't really remember doing too much. I think he did make a clearance or 2. Didn't have much to do, but he was there just to sort of, yeah, Ruud again, good management from Ruud. He realized that the game was going to get stretched. So because he was going to get stretched, we needed to have someone who's a bit faster at the back. So Yannick had to come off. And yeah, I think this is good from Akiv. Didn't do much, but once again, good energy and pressing, forcing mistakes and dragging them into him. Yeah, so he was all right. And look, I think it's good from Ruud that he's rested him and trying to... Look, I would say this about both Fass and Mavididi then. So we're saying, should Mavididi start? But is this actually a case of good management from Ruud van Nistelrooy? That he's actually said, I've looked at the team and I think that you, Mavididi, aren't doing the hard work. And I think that you, Wout Fass, you're upsetting locks from blue tinted glasses. And I can't be having that at my football team. So I'm going to kind of punish you for a little bit. And then, because Rodgers is always going to get castigated by many of the fan base. But I remember there was one time where he dropped James Maddison for, I think, 3 or 4 games. And it was the right decision to do that. And then when Maddison came back into the team, he jumped to another level, right? So there is something to be said about management. So is this actually good man management from Ruud, or has he got it wrong? What do you think, Luke?
That's a good point, because we mentioned this earlier when Steve Cooper was in charge. We're like, oh, is he doing it on purpose? And is this a stroke of genius? I think that's maybe grasping at straws. Is it good management? Yeah, I still think it is, because it proved when he came on that he was so much more threatening. But it would be good management as well to then follow that up and have him starting against Newcastle, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so that's it for this game. But we're going to talk about some more stuff kind of coming forward. And I think there's some good questions. So firstly, let's take on our next opposition. So our next opposition is going to be Newcastle. So what do we think about go from Manny? I wonder if Leicester Fan TV are missing Cooper. And I won't read that out, but I think I pretty much agree. But okay, let's talk about Newcastle. They're kind of interesting. They've not really had the best season, but they play like a very high pressing athletic game, which I think is why I dare say it. If there was a game that you were going to be missing Ndidi and Soumare for, I don't know. I guess the athleticism worries me a little bit. So what do we all think about Newcastle? What do we think the lineup's going to be? We know that Buonanotte is going to be back in. So let's say of the attacking 4, Luke, what do you think that attacking 4 is going to be up top?
Attacking 4 up front, it's going to be Vardy up front, obviously. Mavididi in the left-hand side. The question mark is, can Bilal play off the right? And he interchange and float around that pitch so much that he could probably be on the right, because if Buonanotte starts on the right, as good as he is, if he drifts in and you've also got Bilal in the middle, then you could leave the right-hand side further exposed as it has been in the past. Not as bad as Cooper, but in my opinion, that may be part of the reason why you saw McAteer on the right as tracking back cover. In my opinion, actually, although I would still stick with Bilal in the middle and I'd have Buonanotte on the right. And then your double pivot's most likely going to be, if he's available, Winks and Skip. Keep the same back 4, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I agree with that as well, because it looks like Soumare and Ndidi will be out. If Winks isn't available, what do we do? Because, Luke, there is the potential to do something that you've been talking about for a while, and that is you could put Bilal in as a double pivot, or is that just too risky?
No, I'm all for that, mate, because you still see in like a lot, as much as he moved around that pitch, and I'll let Neil take the next one because I know who he's going to say he's shouting the double pivot, but I think Bilal 100% could do that option, because you watched him when he had the ball, he was from deep, he was making deep lying playmaking passes, he could do it 100%, and then it would just become who would take his place in that front 3. But mate, in my opinion, he could do it, but I just think that we lose something up front. What are your thoughts, Neil? Would you rather have Hamza Chowdhury as your double pivot option alongside Winks, should he be available, or Skip?
I think the reason why you play Hamza is because he's the most similar player to Ndidi. In this role, it's the number 6. He goes in there, he wins. Again, is he as good in the areas as Ndidi? No. But his tackling, his aggression, his physicality is exactly what you need for Newcastle. Turning over the ball, then I'd play if Winks or Skip. I play Winks if they're both fit. Skip, obviously, if Winks is not fit. And I think that could work, because what does Ndidi do? He firefights and then gives the ball short to a better, more competent player. And I think Hamza's good at that. And against Newcastle, a very physical team, I think that's exactly what we're going to have to do.
Yeah. Here's some good comments here. I think Brookline's hit. I think we need Casey on the right to mark Gordon. I'm not sure I would start Casey, but I definitely appreciate the fact that if you've got Anthony Gordon, is Buonanotte going to do the best job on him to double up against him? He's definitely one of their better players. And this is a hilarious one. Get Chilwell in on loan for Newcastle match because we know he won't pass to Barnes. There's a blast from the past. I like that one. And okay, so there's that one. That's a Newcastle game. And here's another thing that I think is a good one to bring up. So I'd like to hear your take on what we need to do in the upcoming transfer window. Our squad depth looks quite poor, in my opinion, which I think is a fair comment. So what do we all think, including chat? Where do we need to improve? Or is this the case, as Tyler's kind of bring up here, that I'm really glad we're getting this month of Rude games before the transfer window so we know which positions are actually weaknesses versus which ones were Cooper inflicted weaknesses and weren't really true, which I think is fair. But still, I think that's fair to say as an initial take. So yeah, what do we need in the upcoming transfer window? I'll start with you, Luke, because I know you do love to play fantasy EPL. You're probably looking already on who you've got. What would you bring in January?
Okay, before I answer that, my comment of the match goes to Tyler for what he just said, because I spot on agree. Because as we mentioned earlier, Christensen, I was hating on before Rude came in, and he's been the biggest improved player and it's proved me very, very wrong. And it's nice to eat humble pie. I want to be eating humble pie, guys. I don't want to come here and double down on negativity on players. In my opinion, I still think we need an out-and-out right winger that's going to stretch the pitch and hug the touchline, similar to Fatal. As good as Boyanate is, I still think he's more effective in the middle. But then again, then you have to move Bilal. So I think we still need a centre-back, another full-back, particularly off the left-hand side as cover for Christensen. So no, right-back, sorry, because JJ can move over if he needs to the left, should something happen to Christensen. So I think a right-back, a right winger, and I think that's really it. I don't think we need a striker. Patson Daka hopefully can keep banging goals in. And you've got Jamie Vardy, who's electric and on fire, even still now at his age. And you've got Tom Cannon out, who I'd rather stay on loan if he's not going to play. So I think it's imperative that we get a right winger and a right back, and anything else is a bonus.
Yeah, that's interesting. Wolfie, thanks for keeping us with, lads. No worries, you're welcome. Neil, what do you think we need in January?
It's tough because if the team keeps performing like I think that, then you've not got much of a. Then the team's only going to go up and up. It's a strange one. Maybe right wing, as Luke was saying. I think centre back. If we could imagine what he's doing with Connor Cody and Vestergaard, if he would have a what's his name? Is it Schürrle? But from Italian, he's German, but he plays in Italy. They were linked to him. I'm really impressed with him. Like a competent on the ball centre back. I think that it just depends on how he can develop some of these players. I think centre mid were okay. Left wing, I think you need another couple of players that can play anywhere along the front line, like an Ademola Lookman kind of player that can pop on the right if we need to, can pop on the left, can pop with a double up striker that can, and then any kind. I know, obviously not Lookman, but that kind of player that is versatile that can play in multiple positions. I think that'll be vital for us. So,
well, do you know what's funny about that is, of course, where did Rude used to coach? PSV, right? And PSV have a number of players who can operate across that front three that are all between sort of 20 and 23 years old. You've got Malik Tillman, who's a United States international. You've got Johan Bakayoko. And you've also got, I think it's the star man, a guy called Ismail Saibari, who I think is like Tunisian. And I do wonder, because, you know, Rude said that there are funds there. And he said, you know, we're talking about not just the January window, but the summer window. And I found that interesting that he said the summer window, because he will probably be knowing like who are the like marquee signings. And look, I'd be shocked if we don't bring one of these PSV youth products into the team. I just think it's interesting that you've got, yes, I mean, Shrewsbury, you put Bakayoko is 25 million, I think. But I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. The only thing with him is I've only seen him play on the right-hand side, whereas Tillman and Saibari, I've seen him play like Buonanotte as either on the right or in the middle. And Tillman, I've literally seen him play all across the position. So I could see that. The one thing I'm surprised we haven't called out, though, is I think we need a right back. Like, I think Justin has been all right, but literally Ricardo's out for a long time. Like, you got to have someone else who can play there, I think. So someone who could play as either a right back or a right centre back in case either or. I think we need someone. I don't know who that player is, though. I'll be honest with you. I don't have any good shouts for that. But that's what I think will happen. But you know what?
January rather than in summer.
I think the right back, yes, because like I say, Justin's going to be gassed by the time we hit January. In fact, someone's probably going to have to step in for him in that run just up before Christmas anyway, when we play 3 games in a row, Man City, Liverpool, and I think we have Villa on New Year's Day. So can he play all 3 one of those games in the row? Not sure. And the only one who could play right now is, would you put Chowdhury there? Maybe you'd put Okoli. I don't know. But I feel like we need someone. Look at what Victor, like, to be fair as well, I think Justin, from the offensive point of view, isn't giving us what, like, say, Christian. Yeah, here's the thing: we have been linked to the Japanese player at that right back. That is correct,
Yes.
actually. We have to. Yeah, Tyler saying Merrick Tillman would be clutch and he'd buy a jersey immediately. I bet you would. He was actually on loan at Rangers, wasn't he, at one point in time? But yeah, just quickly then, I want to end the show with this one, which I think is really good. Guys, I have a question. Please answer it. After the 2 games we just watched, are you excited for the near future? I'll start with you, Luke.
Yeah, big time, mate. I'm all aboard the hype train, 100%. I still have curbed expectations, don't get me wrong. It's easy for me to watch everything through blue tinted glasses. But honestly, mate, it's just everyone says managerial bounce, but as Neil pointed out earlier, it's the 100% the papering over the cracks. He's really, really made a dramatic difference, in my opinion, defensively and in our build-up play in a matter of just under a week or just over a week. So in my opinion, of course, I've got everything to be excited for, because when you're at rock bottom, which we were under the Orc, there's nowhere to go but up once he was gone. So, mate, of course I'm excited. I'm very optimistic. And if we can get this January transfer window right and, like, let's say, get someone like Ismail Sabari, who is an absolute on fire. He can play as a 10. He can play as a right wing. He just had, in 71 minutes against 20 here, I've got the stats here, he had 2 goals and 2 assists. Fucking monster. All aboard. Please get him in. And one thing to be optimistic about is Rude is willing to play youth. Did McAtee have a good game? No, but he played him. At least he's willing to show that he's able to do it and also improve upon people that, like, were down tools before, like your likes of Christensen. So yes, to answer your question, I am excited by blue tinted glasses.
And how about you, Neil? Are you excited based on the 2 games that we've seen?
Nah, Rude out. No. Again, he's. I can't say enough great
Neil
things
banned
about
from
him.
the channel, please. Thank you.
Yeah, security, get him out. Yeah, I think that I'm just really excited. I'm really excited by what we're seeing, and it's only the start. So again, it's just nice. I was just so glad to be looking forward to this game. Again, we might have lost this game 2-0 in another side, but the way that we went about getting back into getting back is just brilliant. And Lucas was put a comment in from Lucas about the 2 players that we've been linked with from Asia. Yu Hayes again from Hong Kong, and Sakine is that Japanese right back. And I think there's a couple of other players that you've been mentioning, but yeah, there was some really. I'm really excited for the future, and we just need to back Rude from what he's doing, because he's making. I would say it's too soon, but he's literally making miracles work at the moment.
Sorry, can I just quickly add to before we wrap this up? There's something to be said, everyone says, about Brighton and tapping into the South American market, and they're bang on to mention that. But the Japanese market, mate, there are some proper class players coming out of that super. Is it the K-League? I'm not sure what they call it there, but that Furuhashi for Celtic is an absolute monster, and so is that Hatata, who were also linked to, if you remember, in the last transfer window. In fact, Furuhashi nearly went to Man City, so that's something you don't say lightly. So that right back, I've been watching him actually. He does look electric. Granted, it's highlights and everyone looks like the second coming of Messi in him. But, mate, I think the Japanese market should be tapped into more. There's some gems in there.
Yeah, I think the question with that league is if they can hit the ground running. I think they normally need like 6 to 12 months before they really hit their stride. Like we've seen that with Matoma, for example. But look, a good player is a good player. Anyone could do it. Yeah, Tariq Lamptey being a free agent. The problem is, though, is he's so injury prone. But I mean, we saw today that he's absolutely brilliant. But look, I'll wrap up the show, but for me, I'm super excited. I mean, let's just look at the facts instead of in front of us. So we can see the 30 shots midweek down to 16 today, restricted Brighton to 0 big chances. We still carried a threat ourselves. We came back from 2 down. This was a really good team. You've got to say that Brighton, fair play to them. They played really nice football. They go, oh, hello. I've heard that there's a video to play at the end of the channel. So I tell you what, if he's here... Let's see, Logs, can you show me where the video is? I'm more than happy to play it.
Or is he going to share his screen?
Yeah.
Sounds sinister. I don't like this.
Would anyone be surprised if it's deckled over Reed to come on instead of Mother DD?
You leave it alone, bro. That'd be absolutely disgusting. When have you ever seen Dick Over Reed take his man on and win? And the stats would back that up at his time at Fulham as well. I don't buy it. I'm not...
Mavididi finds Jamie Vardy!
He's got Jamie Vardy! Jamie Vardy!
Jamie Vardy! Yes! Get in there! 90th minute equaliser from Bobby Deckled over Reed! Oh my God!
Luke, humble pie time. Bow down to Bobby Reed. Please, can I see you bow? Please, can I see you?
Nice tap in, lad.
Locks, you are a legend. How can you better a stream than that? Thank you, everyone. Bobby the Cordova Reed with the last minute equalizer. It's 2-2. Brilliant performance from the Rude Boys. We are back. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next time for Newcastle. There'll be the call-in show tomorrow on Blue Tinted Glasses. Please like and subscribe to Luke. He deserves it. LCFC Down Under for taking it like a champ. Neil will be on the 90. See you next time, guys. Bye-bye.